Travis for putting this series together. I really appreciate it. I'm really hopeful that the information I'll be providing today will be useful to y'all. What I've chosen to do today is to go through and try to pull together a lot of what's up and what's changing in terms of what's available in Operations Manager. So for historical purposes on this, I did a previous presentation called Operations Manager Evolution in 2011 at the Microsoft Management Summit. And I blogged with a link as to where that's available at this point in time. So I went through kind of a similar type of an exercise back in 2011. Obviously, a lot of things have changed since that time frame. So the focus today is going to be really going through presenting in a very quick pace what all is up and coming, what is new, what has changed within the landscape of Operations Manager, and to try to do it in a very concise format so you get as much information as possible, as many links, so you can determine what's most useful for your environment. All right. So the focus for this discussion will be in three major areas. The first is around the area of maintenance and tuning. So maintaining Operations Manager once you have it in place, tuning related to alerts, things of that nature. The second major component will be around integration. So how do we pull together the pieces of System Center and gain more benefit than you have from individually assigning or using components? So the benefits, as an example of integrating Operations Manager and Service Manager and Orchestrator together being not a 2 plus 2 plus 2, but more of a 2 to the second type benefit. And then the third discussion is going to be around the dashboarding areas, because dashboarding I see is one of the areas that have significantly changed since the 2011 timeframe. So with that, let's go ahead and first provide a background. So for those, if there's folks on the phone who have been working in Operations Manager 2007 R2, I wanted to include kind of one slide as a quick synopsis of what has changed since the 2007 R2 days from a Microsoft perspective. So what have they brought to the table? Because obviously most of the things that have evolved within Operations Manager have evolved as a result of the functionality that Microsoft has put into the product. So the quick synopsis is listed here. In 2012, they added integrated network monitoring capabilities based on the EMC Smarts technologies that was acquired. They also added APM, Application Performance Monitoring. The deep dive pieces of that were provided by the Avicode acquisition, and it gives a lot of depth in terms of .NET monitoring. And there's also out-of-the-box monitoring now for J2E, which was provided with 2012. So that was the second big pillar of change. The third was around architectural enhancements. So your architectural changes in terms of the root management server. So I used to refer to the root management server as the Highlander of the group. There can be only one, and that one was kind of the single point of failure associated with Operations Manager. So they have replaced the RMS with the concept of an RMSE, or the Root Management Server Emulator. If you want to know what that does, do a quick Google or Bing search on RMSE. What does it actually do? There's a couple blog posts that really spell out what that looks like. And then finally, they added the concept of integrated dashboards. There were dashboards in 2007 R2, but they were a different type of dashboard and something much different than what we will be looking at nowadays. Also, just so you all know, in terms of Q&A, definitely feel free to throw over messages in the IM window associated with this. We'll probably try to grab those at the end when we go through Q&A once we've kind of set the baseline of all the stuff that we're talking about today. Service Pack 1 for 2012 Operations Manager actually brought several important enhancements as well. It brought global service monitoring. Global service monitoring allows us to be able to perform external synthetic web transactions against publicly available websites from around the Azure globe. So in essence, you can take Azure data centers, perform web synthetic transactions against your individual externally web accessible sites, and have them appear in a graph and let you know kind of what the response time is. Are they up? Are they down? So this lets you know for your external web presence, what is it doing? Is it performing properly? Are you seeing differences between how it's responding in different locations? There were also extensions made into APM. One of my personal favorites is actually APM for SharePoint. And there's a typo on this, I apologize. There's also TFS integration and IntelliTrace. So the TFS integration allows us to be able to integrate with Microsoft's TFS solution. So if we find alerts that are relevant from a development perspective, we can directly route those into TFS. And then finally, it added support for Windows 2012 and SQL 2012. So that's the quick recap in terms of where we're at. You know, what have we gotten from the Microsoft side of the house? Most of the rest of this presentation is going to focus around what the community has done to extend Operations Manager and use it in different areas than may have been originally potentially even envisioned by Ops Manager personnel. So the first major piece, we're going to go into Operations Manager, Maintenance, and Tuning. All right. So first big update on this, and this is what I'm really glad to point to from a community perspective. One of the guys in the community, and I've got his link listed here up top, actually wrote a management pack for Ops Manager self-maintenance. So what it does is it does a lot of the things that we as Ops Manager administrators have to deal with on a daily basis. Such as you get those alerts that come through that don't repeat very often, and they're from rule-generated situations, and you need some way to be able to automatically close those. The agent proxy discussion, which we're going to go into in more discussion here in a bit, but agent proxy and setting that for all your different agents, removing discovered and disabled objects. So you've got objects that were discovered that are no longer relevant that need to be removed. There's a PowerShell task that you need to go through that actually executes that. Things of that nature, and detecting Operations Manager management servers in maintenance mode. So these are the types of things that on a daily basis or on a weekly basis we as Ops Manager administrators need to deal with. I included a couple of screenshots so you can see how he architected this management pack. And I'd also like you to be thinking about, as I go through the different slides that we're looking at here, if there's something that you want to see, if you want to get more depth on it, let me know, because I've got almost all of these running in my lab environments in a demo. So at the end of this, we can kind of do more of a your choice, what do you want to know more about, and pull those up and go through in more detail if you're interested. So he wrote a series of different rules, which are disabled by default. We enable them to pick which individual pieces we want. And then he also included a series of different tasks to do things like enabling agent proxy, getting your number of users that are concurrently connected to the management server. So in terms of how he did the tasking associated with this, just a couple of quick screenshots so you can see kind of how these work. Because while the pack was very easy to be able to get imported, finding the targeting associated with it actually took a little bit of time digging through to figure out where he had targeted things. So tasks, for those who are, I'm assuming almost everybody on the call is an Ops Manager administrator or has worked with the product a bit, but tasks are on the right-hand side of the screen, and they activate based upon the objects that you have highlighted. So you may have an alert, which is targeted to an individual, so targeted as an example, SQL Server Alert. SQL Server Alert will then provide tasks on the right-hand side that show you these are the different things that you can do related to SQL. So what he did is he actually targeted a couple of these to different areas. So the first is he targeted the All Management Servers Resource Pool. So what you see on the left-hand side here is I went to the discovered inventory piece of the monitoring pane in Ops Manager. I set my target to the All Management Servers Resource Pool, and then once I click on that, then I get the two tasks that he's added here. One is for the backup of management packs, which is great from I just want a quick backup of all my management packs, or to be able to bulk enable proxy. So you can see on the right-hand side here on the screenshot, what it actually has is I just ran the enable agent proxy for all agents, and it went through and detected which systems in my environment did currently not have proxy enabled, and it configured that. And I will explain more about agent proxy and why we cater on the next slide, but I want you to see kind of how he targeted. The second thing that he did, the get connections currently connected to the management server. So this one is actually targeted at the root management server emulator class. So what we do here again is we go to the monitoring pane, discovered inventory, change the target to the root management server emulator, and now we get the task available which shows us the currently connected users to this management server. So I've truncated the screenshot below, but it will show you every single one who is connected during that particular time frame. That's pretty helpful. If you wanted to, one thing that would be helpful, and maybe something that would be a good addition to this pack, is to just create a view within Ops Manager which has the RMSE and a view in it which has the All Management Servers Resource Pool as existing objects, so that you wouldn't have to go in and do the change of the discovered inventory to be able to target these. You could just open up the view and call that, whatever, where your view wanted to. All right, so I've talked around proxy, but I haven't really talked to what is proxy, why do we care, and why is this something. That's an excellent question. So I've got a one that's coming through, which I will grab. Isn't it a bad thing in some ways to enable agent proxy for all of them? Aren't there agents that shouldn't have proxy enabled? Great question. Let me go ahead and actually use that to phrase into the answer here. So proxy was added as a very reasonable idea. So the goal behind agent proxy was in essence to protect an environment from a rampant management pack that would generate hundreds or thousands of objects. That's a quote that I took from a friend of mine recently on this exact topic. So what happens is that proxy in essence allows a server to be able to represent something that is data that is larger than itself. So as an example, if I have a server that I'm monitoring, which is just a file server, everything that I need is going to be encompassed within that object, and I won't need agent proxy because everything will be in that Windows Computer class and down below. Now, if I'm monitoring an Active Directory server as an example, that's no longer a true statement. I have to be able to provide the health of a site or other pieces of Active Directory. Same thing with Exchange. Because there are pieces that don't fall under the Windows Computer, we need to be able to represent those, so then hence the need for the agent proxy setting. And I think the goal of this was valid, and I think there are some environments where, from a security perspective, you may not want to enable bulk of agent proxy. If you have a small environment, if you have an environment where this particular risk is not as much of a concern, I will say from the environment out here, you find that this is a very common practice. And the reason why it's a very common practice is because of the next piece. So what do we need agent proxy for? Well, you need it for SQL, IIS, SharePoint, Configuration Manager, Clustering, Exchange, Citrix, DNS. The list goes on and on. I mean, from my perspective, unless it's pretty much the base operating system management packs plus the operations manager management packs themselves, you pretty much have to have proxy anyways. So this is kind of what leads us to this discussion of I can either approach it from the perspective of every day I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at which agents I'm getting a list of that's telling me you need to set proxy, because you will get an alert for this. Every time an agent needs to represent data, it will generate an alert. You can open that alert, you can determine which agent needs it, and you can manually go in and set proxy. That's valid. But especially if you're doing this like in a lab environment, if you want, to be able to be more effective with this is something to definitely take a look into. So excellent questions on these. I've included a couple of good links here, and all of the links, the presentation and everything will be available online. Excellent question. So yes, these will be shared online. So that's a good question as well. As you can tell, by the way, from my response, I hadn't realized that the link IMs actually pop in real time in Link 2013, so that's really cool. That makes it much easier to answer questions on the fly. All right. So a couple of other things here. Bob Cornelison, another MVP, has a great list of options available to be able to enable agent proxy. I saw one just recently. Somebody also, one of the guys overseas that did a enable agent proxy through the notification channel. It's a cool idea. I don't know if it's practical to do it through the notification channel, but I think it's a great exercise. Because what in essence that does is if you send the notification that this alert has occurred, then we can take an action through a notification channel which will resolve the issue. But it's pretty much the same thing as if we just went ahead and set it. But I guess it's a little bit more protective from the perspective that it's only setting it for the ones that you're getting alerts on. So that's another option. Kevin Holman has a blog post on how to enable proxy for all of your agents. So there's a lot of different options that are available out there related to agent proxy. The reason why I mention this is one of the most common alerts that we see in Ops Manager. Every time we go into an environment, we're going to see these. We're going to see it on all of our domain controllers and all the rest of these types of things as well. So the end result becomes it's a good question that we need to at least consider how we want to approach it for our environment. Also, from a maintenance perspective, another thing that we deal with on a regular basis is checking for updated management packs. There are a few options associated with this. First is your built-in management pack catalog wizard. So if you go to the administration pane in Ops Manager, go to management packs, open up the management pack import wizard, you can go through and say, I want to check only those that have updates available for installed management packs. That will give you a list, in essence, of based upon what you have installed in your environment, here's what's installed, and here's what has an updated management pack available. I use that on a regular basis. That is one definite approach to be able to do it. Daniele also has a PowerShell sample that's available to be able to go through this. So there's some good stuff there that you can take a look into. And then finally, I saw this one on System Center Central just recently. There's a community management pack that was released that notifies you, or that's supposed to notify you when there are available updated management packs that would generate an alert. This is kind of old school. This is like what we used to do in MOM 2005. You get an alert and you would know that there's a new management pack, and you'd go and you'd add that management pack. I will say at this point in time in my labs, I have had some problems with this MP. It's identifying, it's triggered the alert, and it's telling me that there's an update that's available, but there's no listed management packs right now. So that may be my lab, or it may be that there's a couple little bugs that need to be worked out on that pack. But you do want to make sure that you're running the most up-to-date management packs. And while I'm on this, I'm also going to bring up a couple of really good tips. So first off is, unless you're working in a lab environment, generally speaking, I'll wait about a week or so on any newly released management packs. So yeah, the one that you're mentioning over here, Michael's management pack, that's the one I'm referencing. This is a different article for it here. So I'll wait about a week or so from when management packs are released, just to see how things make out in large-scale environments. Second thing is, I highly recommend when you download management packs, or if you download your management packs, put them in a folder structure, store them by the name of the management pack and the version, so you have a previous version of these available. It's very helpful to be able to have a chance to be able to roll back to a previous management pack if you absolutely had to. There are some people who are beginning to put these into like SkyDrives and Dropboxes and the rest. It'd be great if we had a centralized repository for these right now, but as it stands right now, there have been multiple times when it's been needed to be able to pull a previous version. Sometimes you need to be able to update management packs. You need to be able to have a specific version that you have to reference, and it's very helpful to have those. So keep a copy of that. Also, one more Trivial Pursuit point here. The built-in management pack catalog wizard. If you go and you list out, say as an example, the Active Directory management packs, within there, if you highlight one of the empty fields, if you just hover over it with your mouse, there is a download link for the management pack guide. So it isn't visible, you can't tell this is what it is, but when you click on it, it will pop the correct link associated with the guide. All right, next piece, the monitor scenario. This is something I hear on a pretty regular basis is, great, we have operations manager is monitoring our stuff. How do we know that operations manager is running? So first off, ops manager itself does monitor itself to a degree. So there's definitely some capabilities within that, but many organizations are pushing this question of, how do I monitor the monitoring device? Well, SolarWinds has actually stepped up on this one. So I've included the link here. So SolarWinds has developed a template that allows you to be able to take and easily monitor your operations manager environment. So it allows you to be able to monitor ops manager's availability from within SolarWinds. And actually, I'm working with the team from SolarWinds to develop the reversal of that. So it'll be a pre-built management pack that you load to be able to monitor your SolarWinds environment. All right. Those of you who have done Operations Manager for a while, if I threw the question out, and I will throw the question out since I can see the responses. So your first or second or however many Operations Manager deployment, you have deployed it during the week, you come back on the Monday the next week, and you have a flood of alerts. All right. How many people know what that flood of alerts is, and what time on Saturday those are going to actually execute? Got a been there, done that, 3 a.m., I got a 1 a.m., so disabled. There's another option. There we go, Joe G over there with the 3 a.m., so yes, 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning by default is the automated defragmentation, or is the defragmentation alerting. So the defragmentation alerting will notify you when your drives are highly fragmented across the board in terms of your environment. So since it only works, it executes Saturday at 3 o'clock in the morning by default, and since you only get that set of alerts when that occurs, when those monitors shift state, generally people see these on a Monday morning when they come in after the work is over. So you can disable these, and there's a back and forth I've had multiple times with different organizations related to, do you disable the automated or the defragmentation alerts? My perspective on it is this. If you are running an operating system and the operating system is trying to read and write from the disks, and it is seeing those disks in a less than logical format where it needs to move from place to place to place to be able to read data, you are not going to get as good of performance responses as if you were if it sees it as a contiguous block of data. Now, I understand that behind the scenes this may be running on a SAN that may have already architected or may have already taken the blocks and laid it out in the structure that it wants them to be in for optimal configuration. But I do believe there's still a benefit to defragmenting this on the drive level, definitely on localized storage, potentially on other storage. Now, there's a caveat, a big caveat to mention on this. So if you're using a backup product that does block level backups, this can cause some havoc with your backups, because if we're automating the defragmentation, it's going to defragment that drive, move block clusters around as it wants them for the local operating system, which in turn is going to cause your backup solution to be able to have to take all of those updated bits and be able to reback them up. So for environments like that, I don't recommend using it. However, I was looking for how do we effectively go in here and automate this process of defragmenting the drives, because the vision that I've had since the Ops Manager 2007 R2 days is I want to have Operations Manager handle things for me. I want Ops Manager to identify a condition. I want it to find a problem that's going on. I want it to fix it for me, and then I want it to let me know statistically how many of these did it deal with on a daily basis. So I see automated defragmentation as the first of these that is a very easy one to be able to do, or a relatively easy one to be able to do. So all of that was setting context in terms of how this works. So what I've got here is an under development management pack that I'm hopefully releasing samples on very soon. And what it does is it has a series of different views that you see on the left. So you can see the overall health state associated with your different systems. In addition to that, on the right-hand side, what we've actually done is we've added overrides to generate both a diagnostic and a recovery. So what the diagnostic does is it actually writes an event to the event log on the system, notifying it that we are doing a defragmentation on this drive. And then the recovery actually uses an override to enable the pre-built defragmentation routine that Microsoft put in to enable that by default. Now, what I've done with this is I've actually targeted to a group. The group contains all three of the different types of disk subsystems, so the 2003 logical disk, 2008 logical disk, 2012 logical disk. But the reason why I created in a group is we can now generate exclusions within that and say, you know what, these are systems that I don't want to automatically defragment, or drives that I don't want to automatically defragment. So to walk through how this happens now is Saturday 3 o'clock in the morning comes up. The fragmentation levels are found to be high. They generate an alert. For an individual drive, the alert is generated as a result of the change of state from a green state to a yellow state. It fires an event to the event log notifying that system that we're going to do a defragmentation on it, and then it executes the defragmentation on it. So what we've got is the ability to be able to see within the views that we've got here what events were actually triggered, so we can see which ones we executed on, and we've also got a report that I'm working on that lets us know which ones were defragmented. Now there's a second piece to this that makes this challenging, which is just because I defragmented the drive doesn't mean that Ops Manager knows that I defragmented the drive. So what could happen is Saturday at 3 o'clock in the morning, the drive goes to warning. We defragment it immediately, which brings it back to a green state, but it doesn't know it's green. The next Saturday it comes through and it checks the fragmentation state, and it's still in a warning state. It never shifted state, so therefore it's never going to rerun the automated defragmentation. So what we've got is we have a script that runs Monday about noon, and what it does is it goes through and it uses a PowerShell script to reset the fragmentation monitors for the entire system. So what happens is now every week and Saturday 3 o'clock in the morning, the alert is generated. It is automatically defragmented. We get a chance to see the alerts. By the middle of the day, the alerts are automatically closed. The monitors are reset. And then the next week, we get a list of which ones are fragmented then. So it becomes a self-maintaining solution so that it will automatically defragment, especially drives that are very fragmented, and that will take a time for them to be able to go through that. So there's some improvements I still need to work on. I want to be able to do the PowerShell script actually integrated into the management pack, and I did just recently do the restricting for groups. All right, so just for the Ops Manager Trivial Pursuit people in the room, this is what an automated defragmentation script looks like to be able to reset the health. So what this is actually doing is, you'll notice each one of these is an individual block. It looks very much the same as the other one. So if you note down below, we've got our Server 2003 logical disk. They evolved that into Server 2008 logical disk. And then with the 2012 management packs, it's actually Server.6.2, which that took a little bit of hacking to try to figure out what that was, because I made the assumption that would be Server.2012. But look at the structures, they are actually Server.6.2. So I will be providing this script as a portion of the management pack. All right, next one, alert from a tuning perspective. The Research This management pack, for those of you who have not heard of this, is basically it's a community repository for alert resolutions. So what it allows you to be able to do is to quickly take an alert. If you get an alert in Ops Manager and you go to the product knowledge, oftentimes the product knowledge will give you what you need to solve this particular problem. There are times, however, when the product knowledge doesn't apply to your environment, or there isn't product knowledge available in the rest of it. And what happens at this point, most of us, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go out to the search engine of our choice, we're going to take the name of the alert, we're going to pop it into that search engine, we're going to start digging through. So the Ops Manager Research This management pack is just designed to make this simpler and quicker. So I can take an individual alert, I highlight that alert, the alert tasks you see are listed here on the left-hand side. I've got obviously the top two search engines associated with it. I'm going to talk briefly to the community, the internal, and the share this pieces. So the community site is System Center Central. We have a series of different articles associated with that. And MP Wiki we will talk about, by the way. Good call on that. I have a slide on that exact topic. So Research This for community will search System Center Central. We have these Research This KVs that go through these exact alerts. They're keyed off of the alert, so they're easy to be able to find. You get this alert, here's what you do with this. The Share This functionality allows you to be able to take and share alert resolutions with the community. So you found a particular alert, the product knowledge didn't cover the exact scenario you were looking at. Here's how you went through and solved it, so you can share it with the community so that other people can find it. And then the Research This internal allows you to be able to actually take and generate your own internal knowledge repository. So I was working with a client just yesterday on this, and I think one of their guys actually may be on the phone. And within that, what we did is we actually put up a Operations Manager document library within SharePoint. We can generate Word documents which have the name of the alert. And then we use the Research This internal. We point it to their internal SharePoint site. And now we can search their own internal repository for knowledge. So as an example, they got an alert XYZ. When alert XYZ occurs, this is the process that they use to deal with it in their environment. So this allows them to quickly be able to tie these together. We don't have to use company knowledge and editing of company knowledge, which in Ops Manager 2012, to quote a friend of mine, is less than optimal. And we can discuss that if people want to know details on that later. So Research This versus MP Wiki, which, by the way, we'll talk about here in a minute. Research This is really designed around community solutions. So this is community resolutions, how do we fix things, what's available and out there. System Center Central Health Check Reports. If you're tuning your Ops Manager environment, this is another one that is just gotta have. So there are great pre-built reports for tuning your top 20 alerts by alert count, by repeat count. Helps you be able to identify what events you're gathering that you're not using, what performance counters, state change and churn information. So heads up on this one, by the way, do read, if you download it from the System Center Central website, do read the documentation, because you do have to create something specific within your SQL reporting services, the data source, to be able to actually read from the Operations Manager database, because this set of reports not only reads from the data warehouse, it also reads from the database. So if you're going to be tuning an environment and everything, this is something I highly recommend. All right, and as one of the folks on the call sent out, what about the Viacode one? Good call also. Viacode also provides an alert task resolution, kind of like Research This. But what VioCode has allowed you to be able to do is you take the alert, you highlight it, you run theirs, and it looks it up on their wiki. So what their wiki tells us is details about the actual monitor or the rule that is targeted associated with this. So this makes it easier for us to be able to figure out, hey, how often is this thing checked? What does it do? How does it work? What do the details look like and the rest? So you see on the right-hand side here is a sample of a NTFS, logical disk corruption. You know, how often is it checking? What's the timeout look like and the rest? And yes, the screenshot you're seeing here is direct from one of my servers right now. So yes, I do have NT event level corruption on one of my servers right now, which means that most of my weekend is going to be fixing that, it looks like. So definitely take a look at the VioCode MP Wiki. It is free. I think everything I have mentioned up to this point in time is free extensions. So next, this one will hopefully be blogged within the next week, is an automated auto restart for all of the System Center services, especially when you're working in a lab. Within my environment, I'm bouncing servers on a daily basis. Things come up sometimes, things don't come up sometimes. So what this does is it's a self-contained management pack that works off the Operations Manager functionality that's built in for service monitoring. And all it has is a series of different service monitors that are in place, and they have a recovery built in, which automatically restarts the services. So it also automatically does a restart of the Operations Manager Health Service through an override. So it is dependent upon the Ops Manager management pack. But what this allows you to be able to do is you take it, you load it in your environment, and if you've got all your System Center stuff and you've been having any problems with services going offline, I've seen this especially with Virtual Machine Manager during some of the earlier stuff. This is a quick way to just be able to add it and let it babysit it for you so you don't have to worry about it. All right, so that's the first major piece. We've talked about maintenance and tuning. We're going to roll now into kind of the integration pieces associated with this. All right, so System Center integration. If you're using Operations Manager at this point in time, there is really a better together story associated with using multiple components of the System Center suite together. I've listed them in the kind of the order that I see maximum benefit. Service Manager integration, great capabilities to be able to auto ticket, to be able to have the CMDB and route information over into it. Orchestrator is very, I'm going to hold any of the questions on the proxy until we get to the end. Orchestrator allows us to be able to do a whole lot of different things. I'm going to talk about some of those. Config Manager, we've actually gone through services associated with Configuration Manager and how we can use it to be able to package up applications. Those applications can actually be locally installed or streamed. And actually there's recent blog posts that some of our guys did on how to actually stream the different consoles. Obviously, Ops Manager, which we're talking about today, Virtual Machine Manager, integration with Ops Manager, some real power associated with that, and DPM definitely from a Windows-based backup perspective. So I can't do due diligence to the discussion of System Center integration within this because this is a huge discussion. So I'm going to pick some specific points, and I'm going to recommend if you want to see a really powerful example of how do you integrate together the components that are listed above, I think we tackled all of them except for Data Protection Manager in the link that I've got down at the bottom, which is an MMS 2013 video that we did on provisioning. All right, next, management packs from an integration perspective, so to tackle some of the integration pieces. So the first thing is you really want to use all of the management packs available to monitor the System Center components. Okay, the management packs are found out on systemcenter.pinpoint.microsoft.com. There's a community repository for management packs that I've got listed down below, so you can see where those are at. And I made a few notes on management packs, things that are kind of common gotchas if you haven't done them yet. First is your Virtual Machine Manager management packs are actually added from VMM itself, not from Operations Manager. So you actually do the Ops Manager integration. That's a good thing. And then the second thing to look at is the DPM 2012 management packs. They don't appear to be available online, but they are on the DPM media and the location listed on the right-hand side. And the Exchange 2010 management pack is currently only available from the Pinpoint site listed up above. So those are what we're looking at there. Got some great discussions going on the side. I look forward to hitting some of those as we get to the Q&A section, and it looks like Travis is answering some questions here, so it's appreciated, Travis. All right, so there was discussions on Service Manager, and one of the points that you guys were just actually pointing on is where kind of the changes of these are at right now. So Service Manager does integrate with Operations Manager in 2012 SP1. It's now in a multi-homed configuration. So what happens is, since Service Manager was built off of the same same base code as Operations Manager, there was a conflict there that caused us to be unable to deploy an Operations Manager agent to monitor those servers. So with 2012 SP1, is what they did is they added the ability to do this through a multi-homed configuration. So it can be done. Gives you the way to be able to see what you see on the right-hand side here, the different systems that are in play, and gives you some good monitoring associated with Service Manager. And it now runs off the agent. It is not an agentless one anymore. Service Manager integration also works the other direction, which is Service Manager allows you to be able to generate, do alert to ticket generation. So if you have an alert that occurs that you want to auto-generate a ticket on, quick and easy to be able to do that with the connectors that you see down below. We also can do this for configuration items. So as an example, we had a discussion recently where we found out that configuration items can also route into Service Manager through Configuration Manager. So Configuration Manager can gather information that becomes very important to go into the CMDB for Service Manager. But while Configuration Manager can manage Unix and Linux systems, the understanding right now is we can't route those over as CIs through the existing Configuration Manager structure. But what we can do is we can use Operations Manager, which can monitor Unix and Linux systems, and it in turn can route over those CIs. So we've actually blogged on the process for how to do this for Unix and Linux systems. You can do this, like if you've got Veeam, you can do this through the VMware or your Unix or VMware server information through those management packs. You can do databases CIs. You can do all sorts of different stuff as CIs. It's a long-winded way of saying I can take a lot of information from a lot of different systems, pull it together, and I can do this very quickly within Service Manager through the existing connectors. All right. What about Orchestrator? So what type of cool Orchestrator benefits do we get? So two quick ones on this. First is compliments of Pete Zerger and the crew over at Infront Consulting. They have a pack that allows you to be able to run Orchestrator tasks from Operations Manager. Pete demonstrated this at System Center University, I think it was 2012. And showcased us, how we can actually start to integrate the power of Ops Manager tasks directly integrated into Orchestrator workflows and runbooks. So that's out there. It's available for download once you register for it, and there's a blog post discussion on it. And the second one, this one just came up really recently, so I wanted to make sure that I got a chance to push this also. But the community is also helping to augment what's available on the Orchestrator side, talking to Operations Manager. So Anders Bengstrom did a blog post listed below, which provides more or additional configuration abilities from Orchestrator to Operations Manager, what he's calling the administration integration pack. And what it lets you to do things is like creating management packs, performance rules, alert rules, deleting management packs, deleting rules, importing and exporting packs. These types of things that we would often do through the Operations Manager console, being able to automate those processes through a runbook on the Orchestrator side. So definitely take a look at that and see what you've got there. There's some interesting capabilities within that. Azure integration. Azure is definitely becoming the most important word in the Microsoft spectrum to be thinking about right now. And we did a series of blog posts related to this, where we went through, and found what are the integration points between each of the different System Center components, and how do they integrate into Windows Azure. So as an example, DPM made the capability to be able to do backup to the cloud. Operations Manager now has global service monitoring, as we talked about earlier with the Service Pack 1 release, to do monitoring from your external websites. Configuration Manager has your cloud-based distribution points. Orchestrator has integration packs that allow you to be able to automate processes within Azure. So I recommend, if you're interested in terms of thinking about where does System Center cross with Azure as it currently stands, definitely check out the tiny URL there, the tinyurl.com/SC and Azure. All right, what about integration with SharePoint? There's a lot of benefit associated with integrating the Operations Manager and SharePoint together. So there's 5 of them that I'm going to hit quickly. So the first is, of course, you can monitor SharePoint with Operations Manager. That's SharePoint 2010 as well as SharePoint 2013. Now, be aware of the fact that there is a different process associated with that. It actually has a configuration file. So the first time you're doing the SharePoint management packs, you need to actually know where the configuration file is, how it works. And actually, I was working with a colleague recently. It looks like that configuration file needs to be in a specific location, which has been documented. But what has not been documented yet, or I don't believe has not been documented yet, is that may also need to have been deployed to the same location across the All Management Servers resource pool, because it looks like it's actually using the resource pool to determine where that file is. Because we had a client where it was succeeding like 1 in 4 times. And we couldn't figure out why this task would only work once in 4 times. And we believe, based upon the tests that we've done so far, that it was actually using one of the resource pools, and if it found the file, it worked. If it didn't find the file, it didn't work. Second thing is, Ops Manager benefit from the integration of this. It provides a great process repository. So I recommend creating processes for things like, what am I gonna name my override management packs? So structure, naming processes associated with it, all of those, put those together into a singular document, make them easy to be able to find. And we can actually show these. The left-hand side graphic, though small, is a web page view within Operations Manager, displays your document library, and then you can actually use that document library directly in the Operations Manager console. As I mentioned before, it works great as an alert repository, where you can put those resolutions to your alerts. You can use Ops Manager to do state-enabled Visio diagrams. So you can take your Visio diagrams and you can integrate them with their current health states. You can see what we've got there. Got a screenshot on those later. And then you can use Operations Manager dashboard widgets in SharePoint. One of the things I push on a regular basis is, and this is getting back into the tuning for a minute, but I push on the idea of I'm not going to fight on what's generating an alert. I'm going to fight on what's going to send an alert notification. So I only want to send an alert notification if something is critical. And critical I define as, do you want to wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning to let me know about it? If not, it's not critical. Well, as part of that is we need some way to be able to let people quickly and easily see what alerts have they got associated with their servers that may not have been critical enough to wake them up at 2 o'clock in the morning, but they should be aware of. So my recommendation here is create an alert widget, scope the alerts to the specific user, and put this on their SharePoint home site. So every time they open up SharePoint, they see here's the active alerts associated with their system or with their systems. All right, moving into the world of Operations Manager dashboards, and we'll be hitting Q&A here in a bit, and we'll see what we've got left that Travis hasn't already answered ahead of time, which is great. All right, I'm trying to break the dashboards discussion into smaller components, because what a dashboard means varies depending upon who you are and what you constitute as a dashboard. But the first thing I will say is this is still true. Bling sells. In terms of using Operations Manager, not only from a client base, like all of us using it on a daily basis, but also internally from a management perspective. When you can show somebody a top-level NOC dashboard where they can see all of their core line of business applications and their system health, and they can drill into it and they can see exactly what's going on, that really helps to sell the power of Operations Manager. You're really just exposing the framework. You're just showing, all the stuff that they built into Ops Manager, what's healthy, what's not healthy, but you're doing it in a way that's much more attractive to the user, much more intuitive. So I'm breaking these into 3 major types. The first I'm going to talk about is health state, and we're going to talk about built-in dashboards, and we're going to go to custom dashboards. So the health state ones are shown below, and I'm going to tell you where the third-party ones are as we go through this. Bottom left-hand one is actually a Civision Live map. And the bottom right-hand one shows the health state equivalent within the Visio integration to show you kind of 2 different sides of that particular coin. So the left-hand side, again, Civision, right-hand side Visio. Left-hand side more of a NOC view, right-hand side more of taking a individual thing that we're monitoring with an Ops Manager and reformatting it into a structure that's more logically intuitive. We can do either one of these with either one of these products. So we could do the NOC view with, with Visio integration. I've done that as well in the past, but I just want to show you examples of what they look like. The second one is from a health state perspective. There's also this is still the first one, but health state, we also have geographical maps to look at. So I mentioned before global service monitoring, or GSM. GSM is shown in the bottom left-hand corner. Health state associated with the individual website that I was monitoring, it happens to be Bing in this case, from my geographically dispersed locations. On the right-hand corner shows the same concept within the Civision interactive maps that allow you to be able to take those and pull together groups of servers and show what they look like. So again, we're still first major type. I want to know health state at a glance of what I've got in my environment. Second major type is your built-in dashboarding functionality. I mentioned before with Ops Manager release of 2012, they gave us the ability to do built-in dashboards. These are the types of things like they look like. So bottom left-hand corner, what you've got here is you have the VMM Dashboard Management Pack. This is a free pack that was provided by the Unleashed authors. So this one, as an example, is showing us performance and memory and disk and network associated with a series of different Hyper-V servers. Bottom right-hand side, also a built-in function of Ops Manager. It's the network dashboarding that allows us to be able to see network vicinity views and performance and response time. So these are the types of things that we get built in out of the product that you can just add these in. And then finally, the third major type is you can do your own form of custom dashboarding. So what I'm showing here as an example, these are Performance Point and Dundas dashboards that are being used. The bottom left-hand one shows an example one for Exchange. So monitoring Exchange 2010, showing what its latencies look like, showing what the queues look like, what our free spaces look like. Very intuitive. An Exchange administrator can take one look at this and know exactly what they're seeing. The right-hand side one shows an example of how we can use something like a Dundas dashboard to be able to look at. This one shows us like the free space associated, or how many agents online, what are our top alerts that we're seeing, what are our, least or top alerts, repeat count, and the rest of it all on the right-hand side there. So we can use existing BI skill sets to be able to take and carve these up and build your own dashboards if you want. So all three of those are options available. Couple of quick mentions on these, so some good blog points to be aware of. So first off is there's a great dashboard integration series here that we wrote. In addition to that, there's a great one specifically on dashboards in SCOM 2012. I think that was Timothy McFadden, if I'm remembering correctly. In addition to that, the community has stepped in and has really started augmenting what Microsoft is providing to give you dashboarding solutions. So as an example, the first one was actually written by the product team, the Windows Server operating system, and I've generated all of these as tiny URLs to make them easier to find. So the Dashboard OS for Windows Server, that was written by Satya Bell. The Virtual Machine Manager dashboard that I showed earlier was written by the Ops Manager Unleashed team. And then there's a SharePoint 2010, Exchange 2010, and Active Directory 2008. I think all of those were written by Pete Zerger, and all of those are free and available for download. You pretty much just install them, download them, and install them in your environment, and they'll give you the dashboards for those components. Couple of quick Trivial Pursuit points to be aware of, and we're getting close to the end of our slides, and I should hopefully have time for Q&A and/or demo. First off, if you want to brand your own dashboards, so you want to make the dashboards have your own look and feel, we've got a great article on that goes through how do you identify these, how do you determine your color structures, how you put that all together. And the second is you may hit situations where you need the old school R2 dashboards. The R2 dashboards allows you to be able to take multiple views and put them together into what was branded as a dashboard in Ops Manager 2007. Those are beneficial in certain situations. As an example, I used it for the disk defragmentation pack to show the logical health state with the three different drive types, Server 2003, Server 2008, and Server 2012. But you can't create those in 2012 now. So what we've got is a blog post that goes through, it's a downloadable management pack that contains all of the sample dashboard views from 2007 R2, which you can copy and then copy, paste, and then rename them to whatever you want to be able to use those views in 2012. A couple quick mentions on capacity planning and dashboard widgets. If you haven't seen this yet, this is just one of my favorites that are out there right now, so I wanted to do a shout out on this one so people can see what's available. Some of the vendors, third-party vendors, are beginning to step up and offer packs that actually include their own widgets. So what you see down below is an example of the OpsLogic capacity planning solutions. allows you to be able to project, like the bottom left-hand one shows as an example where we're cool on where this is going from a trajectory perspective. Bottom right-hand one is telling us, listen, on the current forecasting in 4 months, we're going to have an alert, or we're going to have an issue that's going to occur. This can actually generate alerts within Ops Manager to let you know, I want to know 6 months from when I'm going to run out of storage, as an example. So let's take a look at the OpsLogix one from a capacity planning perspective. All right, couple quick bonus tips before we wrap up here. First is there are updated tools available for Operations Manager. Daniele Machetta did changes to the MP Viewer, Override Explorer, and Proxy settings items, which are available at the link below. If by any chance there's somebody in the audience that is not already following one of these 2 blogs, this is the first thing you should do when you finish this call. Thoughts on Ops Manager. .blogspot.com, that's Marnix Wolf's blog, as well as Kevin Holman's blog listed above. They're definitely the top 2 from an Ops Manager blogging perspective. I read everything they write, put it into practice on a daily basis. So there's lots of good stuff associated with this. We will definitely share the deck, by the way, and we will do Q&A here very quickly. All right, so based on where we're at for time and the questions that I've seen so far, why don't we go to Q&A and we may potentially come back to demo. So Travis, let me ask you, because you've been following through this so far, have there been, or Travis or Carrie, have there been any outstanding questions that we have not had a chance to be able to go through yet?
I think you've caught most of them. I guess I would ask, if you're on the phone and you've had a question that we have not captured, if you could just go ahead and ask it again at this time, that would be great.
Let's see. All right. Does the DPM 2012 Management Pack work with SCOM 2007 R2? I would say it should work. I don't know that I've ever seen that it has worked yet. Guido, have you hit a specific error associated with that? Okay, so you've configured it according to the Management Pack guide. It's not finding it, or what's it doing?
Let's talk this a bit better than typing all the way.
Absolutely.
I have configured it, but it doesn't seem to monitor anything. So I installed the DPM 2012 Central Console on my RMS.
Okay.
And then installed the Management Pack, and then configured accordingly the DPM server, but it doesn't seem to discover the DPM server.
Okay. That is a good question, which we may have to sidebar on. Travis, have you got any insights on this? I do have the DPM 2012 Management Pack loaded in my Service Pack, or in my Ops Manager 2012 SP1 environment. So I've got that pack loaded, but I don't have an R2 environment that I could do any form of comparison on. So we may have to take that. Okay, let me do this. So I'm going to take that as an action item to see. Yeah, I would agree with Travis that it should work. With the question being, does it work? And I will find that out. Hold on one second. But it would be better to upgrade DPM. Hold on a second. So.
Yeah, it's running DPM 2012 and SCOM 2007 R2.
Okay. Got it. I will take that as an action item, and I will blog on it on blogs.catapultsystems.com. So I will check with our guys, and here's where the answer will be. So I will go ahead and track that down with our guys internally. So we've got a whole team of System Center guys, and I'm sure somebody's got to know the answer to it. So I will check and find out, as well as I will check with Travis and the MVP community and see if we can get an official statement. You know, this Management Pack, does it work on 2012, or should it work on 2012, and has anybody got it working on 2012? Excellent. Any other questions? Let's see. It looks like we talked through licensing questions here. Interested in authoring around 2012, lack of an authoring console, do we have to have a Visual Studio license now? That's a good question. Let's see, from Damien, there we go. Thank you, Damien. Okay, let's see, so to my knowledge, the MP does work but does not have any aggregation support for rolling up multiple DPM servers into a single view. I believe that Kevin Green has covered a blog on this as well. Excellent feedback, Damien. I will take that as well and look into it and point to Kevin's blog, assuming he has an answer associated with it. All right, SPNs. I did see an SPN discussion that was back here. Just a minute. Anybody else getting the SPN for System Center Data Access Service has failed to register? Check the SPN and all is good. Why isn't this fixed in SP1 UR2? To hit that, are you seeing that on your management servers, or are you seeing that on your reporting server, or both? Yeah, no duplicate SPNs. Okay, and the management server itself, did you install using a local system? The default configuration uses local system, or local system, local service, whatever it is, for it's like the second or third account on it. If you do that, you will see problems with the SPNs. Okay, you did domain by the book. Okay, good. I have seen problems with it when it's installed with local system. If you would, let me see if you have my email address, or yeah, actually, we'll genericize this. We'll make this. Okay, so that should hopefully take care of the bots at least, but replace the dot with the dot. If you would email me the alert that you're getting, let me take a look at it and I'll see if I can find you on it, or find you something on it. So that's a good question. Now, there was also a discussion on authoring, training resources, and the rest of it. And there was a good discussion on that recently. I'm going to throw my 2 cents at this before I run out of time. So number one, I'm still authoring in the Ops Manager 2007 R2 console. Seriously, it's easier for me to do. I've done it for so long. It's just become kind of the way that things work. Obviously, as soon as you take something out of 2012, you don't want to put it back into the 2007 R2 authoring console. But unless you're going to do something that's specific to dashboarding, unless you're going to do something that's specific to the new network monitoring capabilities, that is really the most effective way to still be able to do that. So that's my recommendation. I know it's not fun. I know from a Microsoft perspective, they are going to highly recommend use VSAE. I know guys who have learned VSAE and absolutely love it once they're used to it. But to me, it's kind of like jumping off into the ocean. I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going, and I don't really feel like I know how I would do something simple with VSAE yet. But I will say that strategically, if you're going to learn something new, learn VSAE. And I think we are up against our time constraints. So if anybody has additional questions or stuff, feel free to email me at the address that I sent up. And I will see if anything we can come up with answers for. I'll go ahead and blog them for you so that you're aware of it.
Thanks,
and I'd like to thank everybody on the call. It was awesome having people on.
Thank you, Cameron. And just as a reminder to everyone, the session has been recorded, and I will be posting the recording and the location to Cameron's deck a little bit later today on the TechNet blog. And as a reminder, we will be having a session next week. My apologies. So we will hope to see you guys next week on the call. Thank you.